G'day, I'm Rowan Connolly.
I'm Mark Fine.
We are here to wrap up a big round 14 of AFL football. How are you, Finey?
You use the term big loosely.
I know, I was sort of biting my tongue a bit as I said it. Wasn't a great weekend of footy, let's be honest, but the scheduling's probably had a bit to do with it, hasn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately it comes on a weekend where a lot of people are immersed in World Cup, which is now available to everybody on free-to-air, thanks to the Optus muck-up, and State of Origin on Sunday night. So comparisons will loom large, and unfortunately this weekend AFL does not run. They don't make the Quinella in a three-horse race.
That is not to say that there weren't interesting results and some good games, perhaps most of them earlier in the round. We're going to drill down on all of them right now in the wraparound. Okay, well, let's start at the start, and seems a while ago now, but Thursday night, the second in this series of 5 Thursday night games in a row, and I think it's fair to say a major upset. West Coast still missing a couple of keys in Darling Kennedy, obviously, but Essendon played some outstanding footy early and then managed to hang on under the assault of a pretty wayward West Coast. Final scores 12-8-80, the Bombers defeating the Eagles 6-16-52. What'd you make of it?
I tipped this.
You did.
And we were treated to the best quarter of football for the round in the first quarter of football played for the round by Essendon. Essendon were actually brilliant in that first quarter. It was exciting to watch. Dash off the back line from the expected suspects in Sard and McKenna. But Goddard played a very sturdy quarter, an important quarter. And up forward, there were various avenues to goal, all of them alive, all of them dangerous and varied, from Mitch Brown's marking to Josh Green's nuisance value and many good other ways to kick goals in between, Stringer being the sort of icing on the cake.
I thought that hats off to John Worsfold too. Now, he's a coach that doesn't get much kudos for his match day strategies, but I thought the matchups were really good. Two in particular, Mitch Brown playing almost as a key forward defender on Jeremy McGovern, and they really quelled his influence. And Mark Baggerley, who's been a bit of a revelation as a defensive forward, he really quietened Shannon Hearn, and they were keys to the result. But when Essendon get going, the key to Essendon is, I think, their pace. And it's when they use that defensively and the midfielders are able to work back defensively, help the defence, and then they generate that rebound through Sard and McKenna. Now, Sard has hit a rich vein of form. His last 2 games have been easily his best. Thought McKenna jumped on board as well. But that quick delivery into the forward line, it makes all the difference to the Bombers. But you've got guys jumping up left, right and centre at the moment. I think Matt Guelphy's been an outstanding pickup for them. I think Kyle Langford again played a really solid game, and he's a long-term midfield bet. And you're seeing a few options now at either end of the ground. I thought Cale Hooker too was outstanding in defence.
Look, this game was always, Essendon jumped out and played a brilliant first quarter. So you're over in WA, and you know from what we've seen this year that West Coast are going to come back and come at you. And they did come at Essendon. Now, Essendon's midfield didn't necessarily stand up, but their defence did. And you mentioned Hooker. He was great. The ability for the Bombers to, well, let's be honest, they didn't have the big problems, which were the 2 key forwards. But that can sometimes be difficult in and of itself, to know who your opponent is, to do the intel. And they tried everything, West Coast. McGovern went down there. Everybody had a go at it. And full credit to Essendon for every player that started well, was able to maintain a level of output throughout the game that was what you need to win over there, because they will come at you. And you know, they huffed and puffed, but they did not blow the house down.
I was just on the coaching. I was really surprised Adam Simpson didn't try and change a bit more. So they brought McInnes in He, looked promising early but couldn't convert.
Well, he's not, his record says that he's not a success as a forward.
They tried Lysette. He didn't work. Why at some stage, though, didn't they make it, clear, put the bigger guys on the interchange bench and make it a much smaller forward line? They just, I thought there was a lack of sort of trying stuff, to be perfectly honest. And I thought they played dumb footy too. They just kept bombing it in as if Kennedy and Darling were both still there.
Well, that was the reason why I tipped Essendon, because I just felt that going into the forward line, they had become absolutely conditioned to kicking to Darling or Kennedy. Now, in the first quarter, they tried to hit up Lacroix a couple of times. Well, he's a good player, Lacroix, but the very best Lacroix, the one that killed Essendon at Etihad Stadium all those years ago.
12 goals.
Yeah, he's a light of other days. He doesn't exist anymore. So they really were just kicking it. They didn't even know who they were kicking it to half the time. They were just kicking it inside 50. All
right, a quick question. Do we think West Coast are going to get through this month or so without the two keys in decent shape, or is there a worry the bottom's going to fall out of it?
Oh, no, they're in big trouble. Ryan's exciting, but if exciting amounts to flying for unrealistic marks every quarter and not really hitting the scoreboard, then he's not the answer.
Yeah.
No, they don't have any forward. They've got no... and as you said, they didn't unearth anybody against Essendon on Thursday night. I don't know what forward line they'll go in with for their next game.
I think they'll steady. I've just got a feeling that'll be the sort of lesson they need to learn in terms of structure. And really quickly, is Essendon any chance of making the 8?
The problem with Essendon is you just fear that they're going to drop one that they shouldn't drop.
Yeah.
Who's Carlton's only win?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, they need to win at least 6, if not 7 of the last 9. So
they're better off in big games playing good teams at the moment.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to game number 2, Friday night at Adelaide Oval. Big ramifications for either side. A win was pretty critical. And it was Port Adelaide who got it in the end after trailing much of the evening. The Power 11-9-75, defeating Melbourne 9-11-65. 10 points in the end. I think the Power kicked... and I kept a record here, 6 of the last 7 goals of the game after the Demons got out to a 20-point break about halfway through the third quarter. So they'd be really disappointed they didn't hang on. And I think I took it less as a aspersion on Melbourne's character, because I thought they were tough enough. They just didn't convert. I thought I said more about Port being able to mix it in terms of the harder stuff when they have to. So I'm suitably, I guess, reinforced that I think Port can actually do something this September.
They nicked it, Port.
Do you reckon?
Oh, yeah, they stole the game. Look, I mean, Melbourne...
Yeah, stats certainly said that.
Well, Melbourne shot themselves in the foot in the first half. They had so many inside 50s, but, unpressured inside 50s. Players from 60, 70 metres with options, and they just were choosing the wrong options. Hogan is no longer a target. He's playing strange football, well pointed out by Dermot Brereton on the Fox coverage, that he now goes to the base of the pack front and centre like a rover. He's not flying for any ball, so he's not a hit-up player. For all of that, Port Adelaide got in front in the last quarter, and Melbourne again started getting a lot of inside 50s, but they couldn't finish the game off. A bit disappointed with Petrarca, who started dynamically, but couldn't find a way to be the match winner, which you thought he might be. And towards the end of the game, Melbourne were actually very unlucky. Was it Hannon? They had one player led and was hit up with a pass, and he marked it. He stopped the ball, he marked it, and then it was knocked out of his hands or jarred.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that was a mark 25 out.
Yeah.
That was with 4 umpires. I mean, we should not be getting these absolute clear mistakes happening. That was really unlucky for them.
I think you made... there's an important point there. I felt like one of Melbourne's big strengths has been the range of goal kickers they've got at their disposal. But with Hogan down on form, I think Tom McDonald has become a bit isolated. And Petrarca, didn't do enough. Melksham quieter than he had been, I think. Hannon I like, and he was okay, kicked a couple, but... I sort of expected more potency from that group of medium-sized forwards. So that's a potential worry for them. There's something going awry with their forward setup because they've finished the game with 68 inside 50s for 9 goals. I mean, that's ridiculous. Port, look, the midfield continues to get the job done for them. Ollie Wines, he's last month has been absolutely superb. I think, Rockcliffe is continuing to get on board for them. And I think their defence, and I will expand on this, so don't cut my lunch, their defence was absolutely superb. So I reckon they're getting an improvement all over the ground, Port. I like the way their season's shaping up.
You know who was great for them? And it just proves that stats, and I think a lot of people rely on stats to cobble together their match reports or their assessment of players throughout the year. Stats will not show this. Lindsay Thomas was very good for them. He flew courageously on 2 or 3 occasions. He, in the third quarter, got a knock-on to Wingard that resulted in a goal that was overlooked by the commentary team but was courageous and started a bit of a brawl, actually, because I think Jetta actually went to see if he was all right. That was misconstrued. Jetta himself was almost killed in the last quarter and came back courageously. But
well, that was really unfortunate because he was groggy as when he chased the length of the field and gave away a free kick.
Gave that free kick away. Look, Melbourne, there's no need to panic, but these are the games that cost you top 4.
Yeah. So who? Could essentially be a joust for last spot in the top 4. Who at their peak is the better side, Port or Melbourne?
I think Melbourne.
You know what? This is probably a cop-out. I would say in Melbourne, in Adelaide, Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I still think Melbourne should have won that game.
Yeah.
They need to get more out of Dom Tyson.
Yeah, no, he hasn't made. Well, he's been dropped already this season, so a bit needs to happen there.
Yep.
But I thought Simon Goodwin definitely took a glass half full approach afterwards, and I think he was right to do that because at the end of the day, they, to quote Gary Ayres, they probably just haven't converted, and that's been the difference between winning or losing the game.
Last one, how good is Daly Fritsch?
Yeah, he's good.
He's good. He's strong. He's got good hands. He's
BT
game.
likes him.
I like him.
But you like him because he's a good player, not just because he's got a catchy sounding name. All right, let's move on to our third feature game, and it was Etihad Stadium Saturday night, and an unexpected thriller, I think it's fair to say. I think most people thought North would have rolled over the Doggies, given the injuries the Doggies have had and just how low their morale would be, but they were terrific early, 3 goals up at half-time. In the end, winning goal kicked in literally the final minute of the game. The Roos got home by 2 points, 12-5-77 to 11-9-75. I think Luke Beveridge really unhappy with his side, the way they played the last couple of minutes, but a much better showing from them simply in terms of effort. And I think North will be really happy to... They're the sort of games they were losing last year, and they've won a couple of tight ones this year. Last year they lost... what's that figure? I keep quoting it. 6 games, I think, by a total of 15 points or some ridiculous amount by that, like that. So they're now winning those sort of 50-50 games and a bit of resilience in the mix at Arden Street. So good result for them, and they're back in the top 8. Yeah,
on numbers they might make the 8, but they need to be a better team than the one that played on Saturday night to have a say in the 8. But they can regroup as long as they're getting 4 points along the way, as you said, not a bad thing. Isn't Aaron Norton a good footballer? I mean, this is his first year.
Yeah.
He's come out of nowhere. He was playing very good football when he got injured. I think he got injured maybe down at Mars Stadium, up at Mars Stadium, and had a few weeks off, and he was very good last night. Look, he's a good footballer, and Marcus Adams is good. I know that we talk about their losses, but
you've missed the biggest plus out of this year for them.
Which is?
Ed Richards.
Oh, Gowers and Richards are both.
Yeah, Gowers has been good too.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Yeah, I guess maybe...
But I'm talking about guys that have just come back in the team this week. Because we keep on talking about they're losing players, but there actually are players coming back as well.
Yeah. Do you think that... Again, I know this question's been asked a lot though. Are they a really good side down their luck, or are they... more and more do we feel like 2016 was a right place, right time premiership?
It was a right place, right time. I mean, they really have lost this power surging midfield of theirs.
Mm.
You know, McRae was good.
Well, Liberatore's been a massive
Yeah,
loss in that regard.
but remember, he's been up and down for various reasons since the ground.
Yeah, but he was great in that year. He was a key factor in that year. He's been, well, last year too, he's been sort of good, but not necessarily better than 2000.
He hasn't consolidated himself as a great young player, has he? Like,
No.
I watch Cripps for Carlton every week, and every week there's the bare minimum is excellent.
Yeah, I think some of their lesser role players that were doing really good jobs in 2016 aren't producing, as well either. Like Shane Biggs is one. Yeah. A guy like Josh Dunkley. They all played really important roles. Clay Smith. Now on talent, he's a guy that should be in that side every week, but he's not. Just on the Roos, I think one thing that will not comfort because they won the game, but will make them feel a bit better about themselves is I was really worried about their long-term future for this season with the loss of Jared Waite, because I think he's been really important support to Ben Brown. And when he hadn't been in the side, particularly, they beat Brisbane, kicked 21 goals, and Brown only had a couple. They lost down at Geelong, and Brown didn't get a sniff. And I felt like the absence of Waite was really critical there. But he started last night, Brown, kicked 5 without Waite alongside him. So perhaps, they can find other ways until Waite gets back in the mix.
So are you saying weight loss is overrated? We prove that.
Yeah. Well, that's my excuse anyway. So, what do we feel like the Roos? Do we think they're going to hang on and make the 8? It's getting that. I know there's still like 9 games to go or whatever, but you're starting to look at runs home now. North's is particularly good. North and Hawthorn probably have the best runs home of any side, I think.
Yeah, look, GWS took a big blow to their chances on the weekend, and we don't need to wait for the tribunal.
They landed a big blow on their own chances.
Yeah, we don't need to wait for the tribunal to confirm that. So, look, North, I think the numbers say that they might fall in. That's the spot that Essendon would be coveting.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think whoever gets it's probably a token. I don't know.
For a team that was tipped to finish last, that's not a token result to make the
finals.
Yeah,
no, absolutely.
Enjoy it.
Absolutely. If you're talking in terms of doing something throughout the finals, I've still got this thing about Hawthorn, and we'll talk about their game in a sec. In fact, right now. Let's talk about it now. So Hawthorn beat Gold Coast in a really ordinary game. I was going to swear then, but no, it's kids' show. They ended up running over the top of the Suns, as everyone does against the Suns now, after the Suns were really good in that first quarter. 13-18, 96 to 5-13, 43. And the Suns absolutely dominated that first term. But again, are they incapable of playing even 2 quarters of footy? I wrote down at quarter time, the inside 50s was shortly, not long into the second quarter, the inside 50s were 22-12 the Gold Coast way. By half time, it was 27-26 to Hawthorn. So in the second half of the second quarter alone, it was 15 inside 50s to 4. And they just disappeared. Once again, went goalless in a game, the Suns, in 2 quarters, and 2 in the last, 5-13. They just hoist the white flag, don't they? And Hawthorn, this is my point about the Hawks, not overly impressive. Their conversion was poor. But if you have a look at their record, they keep, they've won some big victories this year over decent sides. They beat Collingwood, albeit Collingwood not playing as they have recently. They beat Geelong. They ran 3 of their losses, West Coast, Sydney, and who's the other one? Richmond. They've all run to within 13, 15 points.
Yep.
I think Hawthorn, of the teams we're talking about sneaking into 8th, has the capacity to do the most damage. But what do you make of the game? It's not a great advertisement for the game.
No. We are now having games that seem to be symptomatic of where football is at the moment, and the fact that we've got a team, Gold Coast, in the 121-year history of league football from 1897 till today, no team has amassed 4 last quarters in a row for a total of 0.2 or less. In other words, they are the worst. That is the worst month of last quarters in the history of the game. And they come out and really...
Well, they got 2-4 this week.
Yeah, but they had 2 quarters again in which they didn't kick goals.
Yeah.
And this is now going to be a regular occurrence for this side, probably. Their problem is that their key forward is not going to be there next year. He's not going to hang around to be party to that. Take Tom Lynch out of that team. You know, I just don't know. It's barely sustainable, honestly.
No,
who's going to go and watch that?
No, it was really, really disappointing. The fact that they can... I mean, they look really good in the first quarter. But the disappearance of that effort so quickly, I think really, really bad omens there. All right, let's talk about another ordinary game. Probably not quite so ordinary as the one we just spoke of, but pretty routine win for GWS up at the Gabba over Brisbane. 16-13, 109, defeated the Lions 12-10, 82. And really, all anyone was talking about, and I know you want to expand on this, was the KOing of Harris Andrews by Jeremy Cameron and the obvious ramifications for the Giants, but pretty routine victory by them, wasn't it?
Look, at half-time it looked to be going to script, except for what had happened earlier.
Yeah.
And Brisbane launched at them, and, you know, in the first part of the last quarter, Brisbane were coming at them good and proper. And
you didn't feel like they were going to win it.
Yeah, I thought that they could, because I'll tell you what happened. There were 2 opportunities for GWS to end the discussion, and they both fell to Patton, who dropped terrible marks. He had a mark in the beautiful kick to him, lob kick in the goal square, that it had 2 hands around that he dropped, and then a hit up 15-metre lead that he dropped. And he started thinking, well, hang on. So what happened? There must have been 6 Brisbane players just, you know, piss-farting around with the ball in the back pocket. There were 6 of them. There were no GWS players. And in the end, it slipped out of one of their hands to the wrong man. He got it to Kelly, and Kelly slotted home a dagger. But, you know, Brisbane, they came at them. They don't really know how to finish the deal. Their problem is that, you know, Hodge is a very good player, but he does noticeably tire. So he was on the bench in the last quarter. No Harris Andrews. Kelly was great for GWS. Well, they've got some limitations, though, don't they?
Well,
they don't have a ruckman.
Well, addressing Lob will be back.
Well, but not for a month.
Yeah.
Month and a half.
What worries me about them is the same thing that worried me about them last year. That there's a certain lack of killer instinct with them, I think. They don't look like a side that really goes to the jugular. Don't you think?
Yeah, they don't know how to. They don't know how to. They know how to play bursts of brilliant football, sometimes longer or sometimes less, but they don't know the parts of a game that are, you know, absolutely the moment where you put a team out of its misery, where you end the game.
Yeah.
They don't seem to have that on-field leadership.
No, and they've tried to sort of focus on being more ruthless, I think, and you know, less of that frenetic ball movement. And it's sort of backfired on them earlier in the year. I thought they lost their attacking bent. They've got that back, but there's something. It still looks to me, GWS, like a jigsaw puzzle, where the pieces just don't. There's a piece missing.
No, you're right.
And maybe it's, you know, look, they've had injuries to a number of key players, so maybe it's no more than that. But yeah, they're not the sort of team you'd stake your life on in a cutthroat final.
You know, I was critical of Ryan Griffin earlier on in the year.
Yeah.
I thought he was just, you know, benefiting from others' good work, but he's better than that. Actually, he did some couple of great things on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good. Just to finish off on this, I mean, Brett Deledio was playing great footy for him, and then he got injured. You know, they cannot seem to get continuity either of personnel, but consistency of sort of effort and balance of offence and defence. I don't know why when you say offence you feel like you have to say defence, but I just did. All right, and the last game of the round and the trifecta of ordinary games, I think it's fair to say, was completed Sunday afternoon at the MCG with the traditional, no matter where they are on the ladder clash, which we sort of say tongue-in-cheek now because I've got to say, a lot of Collingwood Carlton games of recent times have been pretty ordinary games of footy, and this was another one. The Pies just doing enough, 11-13-79, defeating Carlton 9-5-59.
You know, credit to both teams for one thing, and we discussed this during the week on the our audio podcast, that we wonder whether there's any rivalry between these two clubs anymore, that the players wouldn't know it. There was a real undercurrent of nastiness in this game. There were brawls and spot fires, a half-time brawl, and Daisy Thomas angry about something, and there was some real Carlton-Collingwood feeling about it. What there wasn't was any football consistently to match it. There was a lot of endeavour by Carlton. Curnow kept them alive with presenting and with, you know, his ability to mark. He's very good. His ability to mark and be a target. Cruiser was good in the first half. He didn't play in the second half.
Well, that's...
They've been unlucky. They lost Casbolt in the warm-up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, in terms of injuries, the thing about the Blues is, and I wrote during the week about, you know, this ridiculous thing that they should get rid of Brendan Bolton. This is a long-term mission, you know, and they're probably not even halfway through it. But sides with this fragile list can't afford the sort of injuries to the sorts of players they have.
Yeah, of course.
And it happened again today. Casbolt in the warm-up, Cruiser second half, Plowman now.
Yep.
So under those circumstances, I think to keep hanging in there was a pretty reasonable effort.
And from Collingwood's perspective, they really relied on 3 or 4 players to be everywhere men. Side bottom, great in the last quarter. DeGoey, further up the field earlier on in the game, was fantastic. Then had to go forward and sort of win it with, you know, he presented, got a goal, and he was the key forward. Hoskin Elliott played very deep and got a couple of goals in the goal square, but they were good marks. And Howe, you know, there wasn't a spread of output by Collingwood. No, Stevenson dangerous again, but you know there was not a spread. It was a bit of a worry.
Again, I'll ask that question: are there absolute highs, the Pies, good enough to match the best of Richmond, Sydney? No, I tend to think not as well.
You know, who's the former Melbourne backman that they've got?
Wyndham Dunn.
Yeah, he was exposed today.
Yeah, they're there. They have their bursts, don't they? But I wouldn't be tipping them against the Swans in a big game.
I don't think they're fans.
I think the Tigers.
I think their fans are just happy and pleasantly surprised each week by 4 points and climbing up the ladder. See how far it goes.
Yeah, I mean, look, given where things, you know, we all sort of got sick of tipping them to make the 8 and jumped off, and of course now it looks like they will make the 8. Murphy's tipping law, I call that. But yeah, just. In terms of further honours in September, I think just making up the numbers for mine. All right, that is round 14, all done and dusted in terms of analysis. Time to move on now to hot or not. Okay, we all know how this works. 3 likes or dislikes out of the weekend's footy. Well, not just weekend, is it? It's Thursday and Friday as well. I'm kicking us off with a hot, very hot, scorching in fact. His name, Devon Smith of the Essendon Football Club. What an outstanding recruit. I reckon I can't think of a better recruit from another senior club this year. He's been outstanding. He's been that consistent, among their best players every week. I literally can't think of a poor game that he's played. He was terrific again in that win against the Eagles. He's the number 1 tackler in the AFL, which I think would surprise a few people, but he's averaging more than 8 tackles per game. He's great near goals. That was sort of the way he made his name with GWS. Kicked 3 goals again on Thursday night, as well as had 23 disposals. He's going to win the Essendon Best and Fairest, barring injury, by the length of Flemington Straight. That's how good he's been. But most importantly, I reckon he's really set the example for the other Essendon mids about the level of work rate and level of aggression and level of hardness at the contest you need. Because to be honest, that's been an area Essendon has been deficient in for ages, even earlier this season. And I think now the Heppels and the Merritts, even a guy like Zach Merritt, they are learning from Devon Smith's example. He has been absolutely outstanding. Fantastic pickup for the Bombers. I can't speak highly enough of him.
It flies in the face of the modern thinking that you need to be 6'4" in the old to be a midfielder.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a huge.
The Patrick Cripps theory.
You don't have to be a huge midfielder.
Yeah.
He's getting the job done at around 180 centimetres.
Yeah. No, he's an absolute gun. All right, your turn.
I'll go for a hot as well, and I hate wine. I just don't like drinking wine. Do you drink wine?
Yeah.
I'm not a wine drinker. I think it tastes like either vinegar or salad dressing. So when I go to South Australia, I avoid all the wine things.
Okay, you're drinking the wrong ones, obviously.
No, I just don't like it. But
where is this going?
Well, there's a South Australian wine or wines that did themselves proud this week. They recommitted to the club, and they showed that commitment was not just contractual or financial by literally, being the man for the hour, because it was Ollie Wines that got them that win against Melbourne. He was brilliant in the last quarter, and it was a great week for Oliver Wines and the Port Adelaide Football Club.
Really disappointed you couldn't use the, like a good getting better with age analogy, but you do, as you would expect. I'm going to give my now weekly hello to Jane Wines, Ollie's mum. Hi Jane, hope you're well. And
Melbourne happy they took Tompus instead of Wines?
Probably not.
No, probably not, given they gave Tompus to Port Adelaide and he's long gone.
Well, in fairness, I watched Jimmy Tompus play some footy at a tender age, and he was very, very impressive, but he's no Ollie Wines, it is fair to say.
He's no longer on an AFL list, it's fair to say.
No, well, doesn't mean he can't come back. All right, I'm going with the knot now, and this one's a bit more, nebulous perhaps, but my knot is the cult of AFL boosterism. Now, we spoke on the show last week about the World Cup. We love the World Cup. A lot of people love the World Cup. And at this time, every 4 years, AFL, unfortunately for some people, does have to take temporarily a back seat. That doesn't mean the people that don't like soccer, or even the people that do, there has to be this sort of panic which makes them overly inflate anything that happens in the AFL world and reach for comparisons that are probably ill-fitting, and pump up games that frankly are okay but not sensational. To wit, the Friday night Port Adelaide Melbourne game. Yeah, look, it was a reasonably tight finish. Second half, not bad. The first half, I wouldn't cross my backyard to watch that crap. It was terrible. It was 4 goals apiece. It was a series of rolling scrums. Neither of them could kick a goal. And I tuned on the various TV and radio networks after the game. People are going on like, oh, this is the best game I've seen all year. Seriously? If that's the best game you've seen all year, then footy really is in trouble, Finey, because have we lowered our standards that much that a game like that is now looked at as a measuring stick? I tell you, I thought it was rubbish, that first half.
Well, that leads on to my next hot or not, and that is the whole round was not hot.
Oh, yeah.
And that could have been predicted before the round was played. Look, the AFL can't afford to have a week of poor football and badly matched games, especially during the bye, especially during the World Cup, especially on a State of Origin weekend. All of these were known facts. Somebody must go through that fixture week by week before it's released, and surely they would have said, West Coast Essendon, pre-season didn't look great. Port Adelaide Melbourne, maybe, but not, maybe. Hawthorn Gold Coast, no. Brisbane GWS, no interest. Western Bulldogs North.
You might have thought that. Maybe not.
Yeah, pre-season you wouldn't have thought it.
No, probably not.
And really, they're not attractive. They're off Broadway. So far off Broadway, they're not in New York. And Carlton, Collingwood, light of other days. Surely somebody would have looked at that round and said, this round, we can't afford to have this round.
Well, this was... look, I have some sympathy for the fixtures. There's a lot of logistics to get into it. But when you're spreading the games thin, you've got a 6-game round, it just seems a weird time to me to mix Thursday nights into this. And I know that goes to giving sides requisite rest before the following round, and et cetera, but it's definitely been spread too thin, the fare we've had over the last couple of weekends.
To appropriate George's father on Seinfeld, this is not my kind of round.
All right, I'm bringing us home. Oh, you're bringing us home. I'm almost bringing us home with a hot. And I did rubbish this game just previously, but one good aspect of it for me was Port Adelaide's defence. Now, I don't know how long this group of fine young men can remain unheralded, Finey, but they are outstanding. Last year, they were good enough last year. Port conceded the second fewest points of any side in the competition. They haven't quite got the same record in terms of points conceded this year. I think they're about 5th or 6th. But on Friday night, under fierce bombardment, they were terrific. Tom Jonas particularly, outstanding game. But Tom Cleary really liked his effort. Dougal Howard, who to most people could be Doogie Howser from that show about the kid doctor. Darcy Byrne-Jones, hello to the Byrne-Jones parents.
Well, he hasn't missed a game since making his debut.
Outstanding. Riley Bonner, really gone to another level again this year. Dan Houston, named on the interchange bench, also contributed. Like, seriously, the half dozen of those guys could walk through Burke Street, maybe not Rundle Mall, but Burke Street. People would know who they were, but they're outstanding. They're a great unit. And I think whoever the defensive coach is at Port, they've done an outstanding job. And proof of that, 68 inside 50s Melbourne got. I don't know how often you would see a side have 68 50s and not win the game. 68 inside 50s, not win the game. But they reduced Melbourne to 9 goals. An outstanding defensive effort. They are one of the best back lines in the league, regardless of where they stand on the points conceded table.
And credit to the likes of Ollie Wines and Pal Pepper, who work hard to get back.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, bring us home.
Hello to Jan Wines, whoever you are.
Jane.
Okay. Okay, not hot. This is pretty obvious, but I want to go into a few reasons why Jeremy Cameron and what he did on the weekend was not only not hot, it was appalling. Look, every footballer understands, and we understand in this 360-degree game, the enormous courage it takes to back into a pack. You can watch it every week. There was a Collingwood player, one of their younger guys, might have been Appleby, got crunched right towards the end of the game. But he got crunched sort of fairly, he knew he had to back. He got the knee in the, right in the small of his back. And you saw him wince and he went down, but he got back up and life will go on. What Jeremy Cameron did, and I do not like the idea of interviewing a player on field afterwards so he can start to make his defence, which is what happened on the game on the weekend with Fox Football. So he said, look, I'll just go for the ball hard. I didn't want to, that's the last thing I wanted to do was hurt Harris. It was really unfortunate. I was going for the ball. That's how I go for it. Harris Andrews came out and sort of shook his hand, and it seemed as though there was some détente, and that might, in some people's minds, warrant a 3 or 4 week suspension. That was disgraceful what he did. That was Tony Lockett, but 3 foot off the ground. I mean, that was a guy who was frustrated because he couldn't make the contest and mark the ball, and he cocked his elbow and he went through, and it seems as though Harris Andrews has not got a broken jaw, but he could have absolutely taken that kid's jaw, any amount of damage. It's only through good luck that Harris Andrews does not have serious injuries. And every defender, every player, and Andrews is one of the best in the game now, has the right to go back with his eyes on the ball and go for a contest, a mark or a spoil, and know that within the rules of the game he can cop a knee or whatever, but not a flying elbow to the head. That was disgusting.
All right, so cut to the chase.
8 weeks.
But he's not going to get 8 weeks.
But he should get 8 weeks. Why shouldn't he get 8 weeks?
Well, I would argue because of the precedents. He can't get 8 weeks when other, even ugly incidents in this era don't get 8 weeks.
But there's no precedent.
Well, when was the last time we saw anyone get 8 weeks? I mean, we saw Barry Hall got, I think, 7 for Brent Staker. Yep. Even that was 10 years ago.
Yep.
There might be one we're not remembering here off the top. But, I mean, they're pretty few and far between.
We had... who was the guy that damaged Geelong playing for his second club? Dean Sullivan.
Oh yeah, he got 7, I think. For
so I find that quite similar.
Yeah,
that's an elbow that's going into a contest, but it's not off the ground. But that's just flying in with an elbow into somebody's head.
Yeah, no, look, put it this way. I wouldn't be horrified if it got 7, but I would be amazed if it got 7. I just don't think they think like that. Now, I want to say one thing. Well, I want to say one thing first.
Go for it.
You finish off. It's your topic.
Okay, go for it.
I would just say, not defending Jeremy Cameron, but remember that, yes, he had time, but I would say people talk about premeditated. premeditated in terms of having about 1 second to go, I'm not going to get to this contest, bugger it, I'm going to go bang. Like, that is not a heap of premeditation. It's not like, I'm just saying, put this in context, it's not like planning a murder, is it?
No,
And
but that
mapping
doesn't
out how
happen
you're
on a
gonna
footy
do-
field.
I know, but it's like when people say premeditated, it's still a really short space of time. And I don't think you should forget that.
All right, so when people talk about premeditated on a football field, we often talk about, two players squaring up and, remember when he was still at Carlton, Yawn, one of his final acts, cheating somebody. And that's sort of considered intentional and all the overlay of the premeditation and intentional. But let's be honest, that's two blokes angry at each other, niggling at each other, having a fight. Not one guy with his eyes on the ball doing what had him best on ground the week before against Essendon.
Yeah.
Now, Jeremy Cameron comes flying through the air. I've never seen a footballer cock his elbow and just go through a pack and not hit anybody.
Yeah, he wanted to hurt him.
He got him exactly where you get somebody with an elbow, right on the corner, flush on the corner of the jaw.
Yeah.
That's what there was only one place his elbow was going. As I said, no footballer's ever flown for a mark, elbow first, just flown for the pack and didn't touch anybody.
Yeah.
And he got him flush where he wanted him.
Yeah.
Well, if that is not a sinister, serious, dangerous act against a totally unsuspecting ball player, I don't know what is. And to me, that deserves as much as Haaland Staker.
I reckon he'll get 5 down to 4. All right, now, you're angry, I can see that. And anger is good, Finey. Anger, as Rage Against the Machine say, is a gift. And
Happy birthday.
It's a gift you're going to use now because, get ready, folks, for this anger to be channeled into an appropriate direction in Finey, the Rant-Off. Righto, Finey, this season, for various reasons, is starting to really annoy me.
Don't tell me we're going again with the goal review.
No, I'll lay off that this week, only because there weren't any they stuffed up remarkably.
Protected area?
No.
Unprotected area?
Well, just count me in, you'll find out.
It could only be 3-2, out on the full.
I'm pissed off about having to resort to the same material every second week for these rants, Finey. Well, do something different, I hear you say. Well, I would, but there's been stuff all decent footy to write about lately, and how can you ignore the continued trashing of our once great game? Yep, you guessed it, I'm banging on about kicking for goal again. Seriously, it's pathetic. And just when you think you've reached new lows, up bobs another contender for the couldn't hit the side of a barn from point blank range with a beach ball award. Did you see the Hawthorn Gold Coast game on Saturday? All it was missing was every time someone lined up for goal, the Benny Hill theme music. They missed them from right in front, from the slightest of angles, from 15 metres out, from 20 metres out. At one stage, both sides had kicked 12-28. That's a date from a history thesis on the Middle Ages, not a scoreline from a supposed AFL standard game. And don't give me this more fatigued rubbish. There's so many stoppages in games these days. The forwards have got time to check the third at Dubin, compare notes with their opponent on their man buns, and pop out for a cuppa before they actually touch the ball again. What the hell is going on? These guys grow up learning how to kick, mark and handball, but once they get to AFL level, it seems that's all a bit too simple. Talk about not seeing the forest for the trees. AFL players now can tell you where they need to be standing for zone A, B or C at the kick-in. Zones D, E and F for a stoppage. They can give you their beep test and bench press records to the decimal point. But put them in front of the goals with a Sharon in their hands and it's like they've been asked for a 10,000 word essay on agrarian reform in post-industrialised Europe. It's not that hard, guys. You get the ball and you kick it between those two big wide posts. Give it a try sometime. And here's the bonus. Kick goals instead of points occasionally and you won't have to remember where to stand for all those bloody kick-ins.
It's true.
It is true. What is going on?
You know what I put it down
We can
to?
do it better than these guys.
I sort of agree with the... Dacos said the ball was a bit smaller, but when they use one ball... I mean, you played footy, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you used one ball for the game. And sort of, you got a feel for it. And it softened. It became, I don't know, constantly having new balls They're hard and they're slippery, I'm telling you.
Okay. Did you play footy?
But with one ball, we didn't have 9 balls up on.
Well, we only played with one ball at John Gardner High School because that was all we could afford. One ball for about my entire stint there, which was the best 15 years of my life, Finey. All right, on that really ordinary pun, I'm going to count you in. 3, 2, 1, rant.
This weekend, I decided to try and forget football for a bit because it wasn't a great weekend fixture-wise, and immerse myself in other activities. That lasted about 3 minutes. You see, my weekend is carefully planned around football. Not that football is essential, but it gives me space and freedom from my wife and family that I need. For example, Saturday nights are verboten. You don't organise anything with me because there's football on. And for the last 14 years, I was covering it on radio and now still covering it on Footyology, so I need to watch it. You certainly don't invite me out to a friend's birthday party. But that's what happened this Saturday night. All that I did was I spent the first half of North Melbourne Footscray looking at my mobile phone before it ran out of power and then trying to get scores from elsewhere on the table. Luckily, Rowan Connolly was there, able to tell me that North had scrambled home. To be honest, birthday cakes and speeches are not for me, not when there's football on. And then on Sunday, it's very important that I claim the couch, claim a table in front of the couch, have my lunch on that table, watching the football and no one disturb me. Now, luckily, my family are not huge football fans and my wife wouldn't know the difference between Collingwood, Juventus or a man escaping from prison or a basketball umpire. So, I was lucky because on NITV there was something called Homespun Footy, or I don't know what it was, but I had my lunch watching Clarence take on North Launceston in a top-of-the-table clash in Tasmanian football. For the standard, it could have been the bottom of the table clash or no table clash at all. It could have been a practice match or a scratch match, or it could have been a women's game with girls with short hair, because it was bloody horrible to watch, but at least I had the couch and I had my food in front of me. I still had time to kill and I wasn't handing over the couch to the kids. No way, no how. So there was some TAC Cup that I quite enjoyed. Vic Country versus Vic Metro. Well, I don't know how that works out. I don't know where the lines of delineation are, but I found myself barracking for the outer suburbs and wanting a draw. And then it was back to NITV for a wonderful game of NEAFL football between the Northern Territory Thunder and the team from Canberra, played apparently in 0 degrees with 0 fans and 0 interest from me, but at least I kept the couch. And then finally Carlton Collingwood came on. And you know what? Here's the sad part of this story. I kept the couch all afternoon, right until 6:30 or thereabouts. I watched Tasmanian football, underage football, a game in freezing temperatures from Canberra, and you know what, Carlton Collingwood? Yours was the worst bloody game of the lot.
Yeah, no, well done. I wondered when you were going to get there, but it did arrive at a point. Yes, I was at that function with you, and a very happy 50th birthday to Lulu.
But unacceptable. I mean, Lulu's married to Howard Cotton, who works for afl.com.au.
Yeah.
That birthday party had to be held out of season.
Well, we knew we were going to get access to the best of the AFL's app, Finey, which used to be a queue for jokes back in the day. I'd like to add something briefly to that discussion. I, in fact, today saw a better game as well than Collingwood Carlton, and that was the Community Cup between the Rock Dogs
that's a great
and
thing.
the Megahertz, played at Victoria Park.
And please explain why. I know it's a great game and thousands go there. It's very much in your bailiwick of sort of left-wing muso football alliance, but there's a really strong connection that will always be part of the Connolly family.
Oh, well, I'm lucky enough to present the Steve Connolly Medal, named in honour of my late brother Steve, for the best player on the ground. And I take my duties very seriously, and I consult a number of learned authorities on Rock Dogs and Megahertz history. Anyway, this year's game was an epic, Finey. It was a goal of difference most of the way, and Megahertz kicked a really late goal. Went back to the centre with about 30 seconds left. Couldn't get the one to clinch it, and the Rock Dogs emerged on top by 3 points in the end. Winner of the Steve Connolly Medal for 2018, Mikey Cale, who in fact writes a great music column for the Herald Sun. So well done, Mikey. I know you've aspired to that honour for some time.
And you know what? Let's just add a minute onto the program. What's the latest status with streakers in the Community Cup?
Yes, well, the Victorian Police, Finey, they might have got a little heavy-handed here. The game has been at Victoria Park the last 2 years. Last year, as is the norm at the Community Cup, there were half a dozen odd streakers, all of whom apparently got arrested. So this year, prepared for this eventuality, the streakers came out wearing bodysuits with merkins attached, so no one's sensibilities would be offended. And of course, that inspired the Genuine article, and a young lady went for a bit of a streak to the delight of everyone, but for the Victorian Constabulary, who pounced on her, Finey, and whisked her away. But hopefully there can be a benefit gig to pay her fine. I don't know what's going on with the Victorian Police Force, Finey, but something along the lines of could be using their time better served pursuing crooks comes to mind.
A little humorless, but a funny story. I would have liked to see not only the clad streakers, but find out where you buy a merkin in 2018, which is of course a
pubic hair wig,
a toupee for the downstairs.
Yeah. I think Pearl Jam wrote a song called Merkin, but we can discuss that at a later time. As usual, we've descended into complete dribble. So it's time to wrap up. Hopefully a bigger and better round 15. Hope your team won. I hope, what are you doing? I think I know what you're doing. But it's time for us to depart and say, may your football be good football, and good night.